So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Stephen Flynn versus kind of dumb unionist questions from Sky News.
When you say right to choose, you're talking about independence, of course, being the SNP. It's only 10 years since the referendum there. I was at Edinburgh at the time, and people said at the time, this is a once-in-a-generation chance. Well, 10 years isn't a generation, is it? And you're really going to have the mandate after the general election to call for a Labour or a Conservative government.
They've had the mandate for ages. They've had them in coalition. When they were in coalition with the Greens, they had a majority for independence. They've had the most MPs in Scotland for a while now. They've had a mandate for a long time. It's just the government will not respect it. They went to court over this, and the court said that power resides within Westminster. This is ridiculous framing of these questions. Now that, it looks like the SNP are going to struggle in Scotland, now it's all, do you really think you can have a mandate for this?
To have another referendum.
Well, of course, if the people of Scotland vote for the Scottish National Party, they're voting for a party who believes that Scotland should have that right to choose. And the thing that concerns me in this entire debate at the moment is the fact that we have a Conservative party who we kind of expect would ignore that democratic mandate from the people of Scotland. But I'm troubled by the fact that Keir Starmer, who's going to be Prime Minister in a couple of days on the back of huge numbers of votes in England and a huge seat count in England, is willing to say to the people of Scotland that it doesn't really matter how you vote, I'm going to say no to that as well. So if people of Scotland...
Stephen, Scotland voted 10 years ago and said no to independence.
Yeah, but democracy doesn't start and stop at one election. People change their minds. Arguments developed. 10 years ago, we were part of the European Union. Of course, we're not now. And the damage which has been inflicted upon Scottish society through that, the continuation of austerity, the fact that we've had a cost of living crisis, which has emanated from decisions made in Westminster and been exacerbated by the chaos of Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, should allow the people of Scotland to determine whether they want to be part of Westminster or not. And I'm deeply troubled by the fact that a Labour Prime Minister rejects that basic premise.
This is kind of embarrassing from the person in the interview. It should. If you look at the polling, it's fairly close. They should be allowed. I think if you're basing it on the fact that this idea that if they don't get the most amount of MPs this time around, suddenly it kind of ruins the chances of. It ruins the perception of independence, or the idea that there's no mandate for independence in Scotland. It's just ridiculous, because if that's the case, then they should have had another independence referendum, because they have the mandate already. This is just absolute brain dead. What they're doing is capitalising on the fact that the SNP are not in a good space politically. That's all it is. The perception of the SNP is not great, and that's what the kind of unionists, I think, are kind of capitalising on. Democracy doesn't stop. He's right. Stephen Flynn is right there. Democracy doesn't stop, and all nations have the right to national self-determination. We say that about most countries. Why should Scotland be any aberration from that? If a country wants independence and it's within a union, why shouldn't they have the right to vote, especially when so much has changed over the last decade? Austerity has gone significantly worse. Yes, the SNP have managed to kind of alleviate some of the the worst policies in terms of the two-child cap, the bedroom tax, etc. But it is still biting in Scotland. It's still impacting the councils in Scotland. We've got Brexit as well, which is impacting Scottish businesses, it's impacting Scottish fishermen, impacting their farms, impacting their universities. Sector by sector, Brexit is causing a lot of problems. And it's only over the last few years we've really seen the impact of Brexit, because when he left, really, in around 2020, a few years ago. So why shouldn't the people of Scotland have another say on this? This is just so dumb. I genuinely don't get why journalists, are trying to attack a guy whose whole thing is independence. This is his field, and he probably is the sharpest MP in Westminster. The sharpest politician going in Britain right now. Why would you come at him with such dumb questions? He can bat these away easily, and you make yourself look a bit silly. Because Flynn is right. Democracy doesn't stop at one referendum. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.